You are listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern vitality. If you are seeking to reconnect with your innate vibrancy, you're in the right place. I'm Emily Davis, a seasoned holistic esthetician and herbalist. Join me as we unlock the secrets of ancient skincare practices, explore the beauty of seasonal and nature-based living, herbalism, and true holistic well-being for you and the broader ecosystem. Please remember that the information I share in this podcast is based on my personal and professional experiences and is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not individualized skincare advice, nor is it medical advice. I encourage you to take charge of your own health decisions and listen to your body, seeking out the resources and professionals that best support your wellness journey. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Skin, Earth, Vitality. Today, I want to tackle a topic that I know a lot of you have questions about, which is do-it-yourself skincare. There's a lot of confusion out there about making your own skincare at home. And while it can be a great option for some, it can also go sideways real quick if you're not careful. So I want to break down the good, the bad, and yes, the ugly of whipping up skincare in your kitchen. And if making your own skincare isn't something that you are interested in, it's not something you have time or desire for, I invite you to check out my online skincare boutique, which only carries the highest vetted products that I actually use myself and love. I am very picky about products. I want things that work. I want things that support the integrity of your skin. And I want things that support the health of your body, the health of the community, and the health of the ecosystem. So you can rest assured that anytime you're shopping in my online boutique, you're getting the best of the best. So let's get into it. I want to start on a positive note, the good side of DIY skincare. Yes, it can actually be good for you. I know that there's a lot of skepticism in the mainstream beauty world, but making your own skincare isn't inherently bad. And I know I have a lot of estheticians who listen in as well as consumers. This show is for both of those audiences. And if you're an esthetician listening, you may be giving me the biggest eye roll in the world. And I get it because it is pounded into your head in beauty school that DIY skincare is so bad. Product brands pound that into your psyche as well. I remember reading I think it was a blog from a product brand that I used to follow, talking all about how you had to use cosmetic grade honey because other honey, raw honey, is going to introduce all of this bacteria into your client's skin and they're going to have acne, which is absolutely not true. But of course, it's in the interest of that brand to sell their honey mask, which has cosmetic grade honey. And if you're wondering what's the difference, the biggest difference is in the processing. Raw honey is minimally processed and it's harvested directly from the hive. It retains its natural enzymes, its antioxidants, which are the beneficial compounds. And cosmetic grade honey is going to undergo pasteurization, filtration, sterilization to remove any impurities, any bacteria or yeast that could potentially be in the honey. But honey is relatively harmless, and I actually find it to be a really beautiful skincare ingredient. And so you'll hear about that under the good in this episode. All of that to say, we need to be really careful when we are taking in information from someone who has a vested interest in the way that we think. Okay, moving on to the good. I've had plenty of clients who were embarrassed to admit that they make their own oils or that they use honey to cleanse. And there's certainly no shame in do-it-yourself skincare. My intention with this episode, however, is to make sure that you are going in with an educated foundation, because there can be some issues, especially when you're just following recipes off of the internet. I did some research for this show and I was kind of horrified at some of the stuff that I saw on Reddit or on Pinterest. Some reasons that you may want to create your own skincare include, one, that you have total control over the ingredients. It's just like cooking at home. You may want to make sure that whatever's going into your products feel safe for you to put on your body. And while our skin does not absorb into the bloodstream quite as much as a lot of fear-mongering posts on Instagram may have you believe, many ingredients will penetrate into the skin, which means it goes into your skin, but not all the way into the bloodstream. Ingredients, of course, can affect the health of your skin itself and your skin's barrier. Additionally, they may be inhaled, which is the quickest way for something to go into our bloodstream if we're in the shower with it. They also can be washed down the drain and then affect aquatic life and our earth in other ways. So that's one reason. Another may be that you are like me, you're just inherently a maker and you want to do stuff with your hands and create beautiful things with your hands. Another reason might be for financial reasons, and do-it-yourself skincare is more accessible to you at this chapter in life. So some things that I really love, some cost-effective and nourishing examples of ingredients that go under the quote-unquote good category include, number one, yogurt masks. So a really lovely Greek yogurt mask is one of my favorite things that you can do at home. I would look for a high quality, obviously unflavored, sugar-free yogurt. Greek is great, but anything that is going to have actual probiotics in it is going to be preferable. So it's rich in probiotics and then also lactic acid, which can be a very good, gentle exfoliation without being super disruptive. The next one is matcha. I absolutely love matcha. You can mix this in to your yogurt mask. Matcha is packed with antioxidants that can help protect the skin from environmental damage or reverse damage that's already there. You could also add matcha to aloe or to honey or any other type of a base and apply it to your skin, leave it on for like 10 to 20 minutes, and then wash it off afterward. It's super brightening. I incorporate matcha in my treatment room all the time. It's one of my absolute favorites. When purchasing matcha, you do want to make sure you're getting organic. I like to purchase matcha that comes from Japan because they have such high standards for their tea there. You can use ceremonial grade, you can use culinary grade. I would say that culinary grade is going to be a little bit more practical for skincare use, mostly because it's less expensive and still has a high antioxidant effect. It has EGCG, which is helpful for reducing inflammation. Next in the quote-unquote good category is honey. Honey is a natural humectant, which means that it pulls water to it. Honey is like the OG skincare mask. It has a very gentle exfoliating property because it's packed full of enzymes. It has antioxidants. It's also been shown clinically to be very wound healing. And anytime I think wound healing, I think acne, dermatitis, psoriasis, eczema, any type of a break in the skin or a breakdown of the skin's barrier function. Honey can be perfect for cleansing. In this case, I would just use pure honey as a cleanser, just like you would with any other cleanser. Apply it to slightly damp skin, add some water, do some cleansing manipulations, and then remove with a damp, soft, warm cloth. Honey can also be utilized as a mask. We can utilize it for honey tapping. So this is where you would just apply it to the skin and gently tap with piano fingers. I especially love this for congested skin that's prone to blackheads. Next is homemade hydrosols. So a hydrosol is the water extraction of a plant. And homemade hydrosols are incredibly easy. I'm not going to walk you through it in an auditory form, but you can check out this amazing book that was one of my required texts when I was in herbalism school. It's called The Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook, a Home Manual by James Green. You have to just read the book from cover to cover because he is hilarious. It's one of my favorite herbalism books ever, but he goes into how to make hydrosols in the book. My next ingredient that I classify as quote unquote good is infused oils. And so in his book, he also takes you through a step-by-step process of infusing oils. So like I said, I love hydrosols because they're a water extract of a plant. They're the water that comes out during an essential oil making process, and then the essential oils are separated and then the water is separated, and a hydrosol is the water. And so you're going to get many of the same benefits that you would from an essential oil, but a hydrosol is much gentler on the skin. I did an entire episode on hydrosols, which was episode number 6. So go back and listen to that to learn a little bit more about hydrosols. But the reason that they're so important is because your skin needs both a water component and an oil component. You need to both hydrate and moisturize. So many benefits depending on what plant you choose to make a hydrosol with. Cucumber is a fantastic option. You want to use fresh plant. Pine can make a beautiful hydrosol, rose petals, calendula, yarrow, so many beautiful things that you may have right in your garden. Herb infused oils are also potentially another fantastic ingredient that you can make at home. I will say that you do want to understand the oil that you're applying to your skin. For example, rosehip oil isn't really a great oil to apply to your skin every single day as your only moisturizer because rose oil is what's known as a dry oil, and it may not be moisturizing enough. It may not be nourishing enough for the skin. It may not have the right fatty acids that your unique skin needs. So there is also a book called The Power of the Seed by Susan M. Parker, and this is like my Bible for understanding what oils are appropriate for the skin. She breaks down the fatty acid profile of every oil, talks about why some oils are better for different skin types. For example, hemp seed oil is beautiful for somebody with really oily skin, but it may not be enough for somebody with drier skin. On the flip side, macadamia nut oil can be really helpful for somebody with maybe mature, really dry skin who's not prone to comedones or blackheads, but it's not going to be a great oil for somebody who is more acne prone or maybe prone to clogged pores. So check out that book, The Power of the Seed by Susan M. Parker, if you are interested in mixing your own oils. Additionally, I'll get into this a little later in the episode, but you want to make sure that you're utilizing high quality oils. Hemp seed, going back to that, can be very prone to oxidation. So I wouldn't recommend heading to your natural food store and getting hemp seed off the shelf. There are some better options. Eden Botanicals is a beautiful resource for high quality oils. J. Edwards is another beautiful resource for high quality oils. With J. Edwards, you do have to have a pretty high minimum purchase. This is generally for makers, but it is a wonderful resource for high quality oils. And just a note about Eden Botanicals, not to be confused with Eden Gardens, which is an MLM essential oil company. So Eden Botanicals is the one. This is where I source most of my essential oils. When I do use essential oils, they're a really high quality company, and I really do believe in them quite a bit. Okay, so if you're infusing oils with herbs, you want to use herbs that have oil-soluble compounds. So some herbs are not oil-soluble. They're maybe water-soluble or alcohol-soluble, or most of the medicinal compounds in them are water-soluble or alcohol-soluble. And so you really want to know about that before you spend all kinds of money on herbs. One great resource is the Herbarium from Herbal Academy. They have a plethora of knowledge. It's a membership that's like $80 a year. And if you're interested in herbalism, it's super worth it. But they're a great resource. Or you can also just Google, is calendula oil soluble, for example, and then that will give you your answer. So a couple of herbs that I think are really beautiful to infuse in oils include calendula. This is anti-inflammatory, it's soothing, it's healing, one of my absolute favorite plants for the skin. Comfrey is also oil soluble, and this is very healing. I would not use this for acneic skin though, because comfrey is so healing that it can actually force the skin to heal over a wound and trap bacteria. So you do want to be careful with comfrey, but it is beautiful, especially for like a disrupted barrier that doesn't have infection like acne. Another one is rose. Rose petals are super beautiful. Plantain, so not like the banana, but Plantago major, which is also known as playground weed. Plantain is another super healing, soothing, anti-inflammatory plant that's fantastic for wounds, insect bites, irritated skin. St. John's wort is really lovely as well. You do have to use the fresh plant of St. John's wort, the fresh flower, but this is fantastic for nerve pain, for burns, for inflamed skin. It has an affinity for the nervous system in the skin, and so also great for like itchiness, things like this. You can buy pre-infused St. John's wort if you don't have the fresh plant to be able to infuse. You can find that on Mountain Rose Herbs. Yarrow is another beautiful plant, very healing, highly anti-inflammatory. I love yarrow, Achillea millefolium. I love specifically the story behind yarrow, which is why it got its Latin name, Achillea. And Achilles, so think of Achilles' heel, according to legend, yarrow was growing in the river where Achilles' mom used to bathe him when he was a baby, and she would hold him by the ankle, and so he would not get the yarrow on his ankle, and he was a warrior and was able to withstand all of these wounds in battle, except for at his ankle, which is what ended up being his demise, was his Achilles heel, because he didn't have the protection of the yarrow. So that always makes me remember that yarrow is so beautiful for wound healing. Alrighty, so those are like my favorite at-home DIY skincare that I think are appropriate and accessible, and with a little know-how, you can make them very high quality for yourself. Moving on to the second section here, which is the bad. There are some ingredients and methods that are floating around the internet that, while they sound good on paper, can actually do much more harm than good. Remember, not everything that's natural is good for your skin. So some examples of quote unquote bad in DIY skincare include, like I said before, low quality oils. So a lot of polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs, can go rancid very quickly and lose their effectiveness and actually be quite inflammatory and prone to oxidative stress. And so this is going to be seed oils, hemp seed oil, if you're using any type of like sunflower oil, safflower oil, if they're not well preserved, if they've been exposed to heat, if they've been exposed to light, to oxygen, they can become inflammatory. And so that's probably not a great option for your skin. And so again, this is why I recommended the websites that are the suppliers of the oils that I like. And this is why you always want to keep your oils in a dark glass bottle out of the sun so that you're preserving the integrity. Oxidized vitamin C. So vitamin C is a fantastic antioxidant, but once it's oxidized, it's lost its power and it can cause a ton of irritation and, again, oxidative stress. And so I really don't mess around with any type of at-home DIY vitamin C, especially if you're using like ascorbic acid. I don't personally think it's great to do that at home on the skin unless you have experience as a formulator. A better option is to use a whole plant vitamin C like rosehip oil or sea buckthorn oil, cockadoo plum oil, camu oil. All of these are very rich in whole plant vitamin C, and this means that they're not as prone to oxidation. And of course, another option is to purchase a pre-formulated vitamin C that's shelf stable. I like an oil-soluble vitamin C. On my shop, I carry the First Light Brightening Serum from Live Botanicals, and I really love the vitamin C that they formulate with. Next up is coconut oil. I don't hate this in a cleanser as part of a formulation, but I don't really like it as a moisturizer on your face or really on your body. It's basically just going to sit on the surface of your skin. It's not a highly absorbable oil. It can be pore clogging and it can be dehydrating. And so I personally do not recommend coconut oil on its own as a moisturizer. I feel the same way about tallow. So I know that a lot of people love tallow. It can be really helpful as a short-term solution for eczema, for a diaper rash. It's really similar to like pure shea butter in that way. I did an episode on tallow, which is episode 7. So check that out if you want to hear more about my thoughts on tallow. But I don't really recommend just putting tallow on your face on a daily basis for most people. Next up is baking soda scrubs. This is way too alkaline for your skin. It can disrupt your skin's natural pH balance. I haven't seen a ton of recipes with this. I think that's more like 10 years ago, people would put that on Pinterest as like a do-it-yourself microdermabrasion. But in case you come across it, don't use baking soda on your face, please. And then next is really harsh clays for dry skin. So bentonite clay is one that comes to mind. It may be helpful for oily skin, but it's way too drying for somebody with dry or dehydrated skin. So the Aztec secret Indian healing clay that many people get is an example of bentonite clay. So this is not going to be really supportive to someone with irritated or dry skin, and you never want to let a clay mask fully dry hard on your skin either, even if you do have oily skin. So if you have dry skin or dehydrated or red irritated skin, clay may not be my first thing that I reach for, but if you're really into the clay, kaolin white clay is a much better option, and you may mix it with honey or another mask base that's more creamy so that it's not as irritating on the skin. And then finally, let's get to the ugly. This is where DIY skincare can cross into dangerous territory. These are the ingredients and practices that not only fail to help your skin, but can actually cause long-term damage. So the first one is any type of raw lemon. This is super acidic. It can cause serious irritation and photosensitivity that makes your skin more prone to damage. Essential oils used incorrectly. I am not a fan of telling people just drop some essential oils into your moisturizer, which I have heard far too many times for comfort. So as I mentioned before, essential oils are really potent and they can be actually quite harmful to your skin when misused. And this is because essential oils can actually break down the barrier of your skin. They can make your skin more photosensitive, especially things like orange or lemon or lime essential oil, and also anything applied directly without proper dilution. So be very educated. A wonderful resource is called Aromatics International. She has a fantastic blog. She also has a great supply of hydrosols and carrier oils, which are like the oils that I talked about before. Next in our ugly category is DIY without preservatives. So anything with water, including a hydrosol, needs to be preserved. So if you've made a hydrosol at home, you can preserve it in the fridge for a couple of days, but after that, it actually is going to need a preservative. Otherwise, you're inviting bacteria and mold to grow. This goes with if you're making any type of a cream where you've emulsified water and oil together. Any place there's water in your recipe, there needs to be a way that it's being preserved. Unpreserved products are so much more dangerous than any synthetic preservative that you may be avoiding. So if you are interested in preservation for at-home products, there is a course on Herbal Academy called Emulsifiers and Preservatives in Botanical Skincare. The workshop's about $30 and I've taken it and I really love it. I definitely think that is worth it if you're going to be making creams at home so that you fully understand what you're doing. So that sums up the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to talk about best practices for safe DIY skincare. The first one is education is so key. You really want to have some intention instead of just throwing things together because they sound healthy or natural. You want to be mindful of your skin type and your condition. Again, using preservatives, I cannot stress this enough. If you are mixing water into any of your DIY skincare and you're not using it immediately, you really want to understand how to use preservatives. Testing the pH. So your skin's pH is slightly acidic. It's about 4.5 to 5.5. And you want to make sure that the products that you're making are around that range. Remember, I talked about baking soda being way too alkaline. It's at around an 8. And so this is one big reason why baking soda is so disruptive to your skin. You can easily get pH strips and test your DIY products. And just remember, if the pH is off, it can really mess up your skin's barrier, and you would be better off not putting anything on your skin than adding something with a disrupting pH. And then finally, diluting your essential oils. I mentioned it before, but I just want to make sure to reiterate it. You can always use a patch test to make sure your skin doesn't react to whatever oil that you're using. You generally want to do about 1% essential oil of the total product when measured by weight. I would highly recommend getting a digital scale so that you can measure what you're doing. And you'll definitely want one that can measure a very small amount if you're making a small batch of product. So be choosy when you're shopping. I hope that this was helpful, informative, insightful. If you enjoyed it, please share it with somebody else who you think would enjoy it. I greatly appreciate it. And go give me a 5-star review on Apple or on Spotify. I will be back next week. And until then, be well. You've been listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality. If you liked what you heard today, consider giving me a 5-star rating. It helps other people just like you find the show. You can shop products and find all of my offerings on my website, stratumaesthetics.com, and follow me on my social channels at Stratum Aesthetics.